Thank you so much. So, we now want to have a quick discussion with our guest of honor around the book and about certain things which we think are relevant around the book. And I will start with Shinjini. Um, what gave you an idea about such a unique topic? Let's start with that.
Okay. Is the mic working by
It's
someone?
working.
No.
It's not?
No.
Use this.
Dipankar, I'll be frank. I really think that, borrowing from Elizabeth's, her speech, that at times there is some genius floating in the air, and whoever it can land up very quickly, it grabs that, and if the person doesn't catch it, it moves on and finds somebody else. I think something like that happened with me. Elizabeth Gilbert's, this is a talk I typically go back to because it did happen like that. When I tried to unveil and unearth the story, I did find a lot of things that I wanted to say, find its channel through it. But the basic idea that one-liner thing, that a person, there must be something more beautiful beyond what we can see and feel and touch. That idea somehow struck me out of nowhere that one evening, it was perhaps destined that Elixir would happen to me. I really don't have a proper answer to that more than this.
Interesting. The fact that you explored a parallel universe, so to say, a different place where we all want to go and stay, gave a view that you are also talking about women who are in the urban area and are probably, they need an escape route. Okay, so my question goes to Harveen now. Harveen, the point is, what I want to understand from you is, you've been all over the world. You've met so many women and you created a group for helping each other. Do you generally feel that when you meet women, especially in urban areas, you find them to be externally very strong and emancipated and yet lacking that courage or that strength within?
Like Dipankar, what you're saying and what Sinjini's touched on, it's really whichever country I go to, whichever economic strata of society women belong to, whichever faith or cultural background they come from. I travel and we also receive a lot of women at the annual event that we do in India. Across the board, whether it's a woman, as I say, who's working, whether it's a woman who's just done a $40 million turnover in the past 20 years of her business, or it's a Forbes listed #1 businesswoman, or it's the national editor of a very leading newspaper, or it's the lady who works in my house. There's one thread common running inside all of them. And that is this feeling that we are not good enough. And that is this feeling that something is lacking in us, something is missing in us, and that speaks about the connection that we have lost with ourselves. And I think the protagonist in Sinjini's book, according to me, I think Readomania will give readers an interpretation into what they read, is a woman seeking herself via the dream, via the parallel universe. But it's a soul, a woman, a man, in whichever body you are, whatever gender spectrum you are in, it's a soul seeking that vital connection, that oneness, that mergence, and that manifestation of that greater you within you, which all of us need to access. So I think it's something we find in almost every woman I have met across the world. And I think in that terms, your protagonist is more than just a solitary case, a part of a woman or an individual case. I think she's very, very representative of what's going on with women. So in that context, she's quite a modern muse. And if I were to get the right to rename the book, I would call her Elixir.
That's interesting. Very well said on this point. I have a question for the lady sitting here. She made a very interesting point about the modern woman always having this kind of a doubt, a self-doubt of not being good enough. Is that something to do with only with women, or have you observed this even in men these days, to the women out there? What do you think? Especially the authors out there. You may have a perspective, a very strong one, I'm sure. So anybody with an opinion? Oh,
Why
you
ask-
said that and he was there. Yes.
Why only?
Exactly, my point was...
No, why the question is addressed to
Because I want to understand their point of view. I was moving on from there and understand from them and then move on to the men. So now that you have started off anyways, what's your point of view on this?
I'm into leadership development and I train people. And be it men or women, I wouldn't say 100%, but most of them, even at the highest levels of achievement that they are marred with self-doubt. Not just in one context, but the context could be different. They could have achieved the height of success in one area of their life, but there are other areas in their life that they miss out on. So Paul J. Myers has given a very beautiful concept called the Wheel of Life, which covers all the areas of your life. And if you look at the CEOs, if you go back to Switzerland, which is this year rated as the #1, the happiest country in the world, has one suicide every year of a CEO level person who's drawing millions of dollars in salaries. So he's achieved that success there, but he's missed out on other areas of his life. And that's where that self-doubt creeps in. And that's where a lot of behavioral change is required.
Interesting. Thank you. Your name?
I'm Sandeep Nagpal.
Sandeep, thank you so much. Narendra, I'll come to you on that point here. Now, self-doubt, issues around women, creative people across various art forms have very often explored this theme in different ways. What, according to you, is a better format for a creative outburst? Is it a book? Is it a short film? Or is it a full-length feature film? Or, as a matter of fact, any other medium? What do you think?
Before directly coming to your question, I would like to first congratulate Shinjani, Anirban and you as the publisher.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing us the Elixir, actually. And I've gone through the book, and one thing I would say is that some stories like Elixir you can't write on a laptop or through a pen on a paper. These are stories you write from your heart, and then only you'll get a book like Elixir. So congratulations for making this wonderful book to all of us. Coming back to your question now, we have been at Woodpecker, we have been experimenting with films and different format of films, short films, documentaries, feature films. And before that I was a journalist. As a working journalist, we used to come in contact with a lot of people working in the creative fields. So there can't be any one particular way to express your feelings or take out whatever is happening inside you. It depends on the personality and the thinking of a person. Sinjani has been able to write a book on this particular issue. If we talk to some other creative person, he or she might be able to make a feature film on it, or maybe a painting on it, or maybe a series of master classes one would like to conduct on these issues, because these are very strong issues which have been taken, I think, everyone's life. So it depends, how creatively you want to actually experiment with that, I would say, social problem. And then depending on your interest, you would like to bring it out in any form, whichever suits you. As far as the impact or the effectiveness of, the form which it will take is concerned, I think it depends, again I would say, what your heart says, in which way you are comfortable in talking to yourself. Because once you are comfortable in talking to yourself, once it's clear to you what exactly you want to communicate, then only you'll be able to explore a medium, the perfect medium according to you, to bring out those feelings or those emotions on it. So it can be any canvas of a film. I have seen, as far as Elixir is concerned, I have seen the film also, and I have read the book also. So there is, of course, there is a big difference. We get to see a lot of films every day in our festival and outside that also. But the way Sinjani has approached the book and the way Anirban had approached the film, that were completely different ways of the same issue.
interesting that you bring that point out, and Paramita, pardon me for bringing this up front and asking Shinjini. Shinjini, this must have been a really tough task to, flesh out the film into a book, because the book deals with a lot more stuff that we could not see. Probably we observed in the film, but we could not see. So how did you go about, and how did you choose what to flesh more than the other?
But Dipankar, it is you who told me that forget the film and write your book, didn't you? No, I really...
But could you do that? Could you actually do that?
Yes, I could do that. Frankly, when I wrote the first story, I didn't have to get really into the why of it. I mean, I began with the point that people would understand this lady as she is today, and from now her story moved on over these 2,500 words. When Anirban started to work on the movie and I started to help him with the screenplay, we had, been having several tooth and nail experience and episodes between the two of us, given how he wanted to understand or how he understood the thing versus how I understood the thing. So I felt that I had a lot of confidence around the main character, Manisha. Whereas Anirban had a very third-person view of portraying all the characters, all the 3 or 4 protagonists, and he did more justice to be objective towards them, rather than me being totally under the skin of this one woman protagonist, who I kind of, felt like my alter ego. When I sat down with the novel, I had to discard all those, confidence that I had, thinking that I know this. I really had to go, totally back to the drawing board and totally understand where she's coming from. If the lack of self-esteem, as you very rightly pointed out, is actually the social malady that all of us suffer from, and as most of us agree, it is perhaps a gender-neutral issue. But having said that, the journey from me not being good enough and for me, the need of proving myself at office, at home, see I did this, see I did that, see I delivered on time. From there to going to that distance where I can say, you know what, I don't need your certificate, I am enough. I think that I only could be humble and get down to the bottom and go deeper and deeper and try to bring it out. I don't think if I looked at the format of the film and tried to adopt that into a text, I couldn't have done justice to the real plot, which was much more from inside rather than from outside.
I'd like to add something here. Sanjay, one difference I could see while reading the book, and I've also seen the film, a lot of times I could see that the poet inside you has taken the precedence over the author, the writer. And there are wonderful paragraphs, the way you have, the kind of words you have used, how you have weaved the entire sentences, would show that there is a poet who is writing those paragraphs, not the author. That was quite clear. And these things you won't find in a film, because they're actually not meant for films. So this is something which you'll find only in a book.
Good, you're pointing to the fact that the book is about the film. Thank you.
No, I'm
Thank you
not
so much.
saying
You said that. You just said that. Thank you so much. Thank you. I like that. Trick question for all the authors over here. So, I like your point that you keep on exploring, going deeper and deeper into a psyche of a character before you jump into writing. How many of you think a character is more important than the plot when you write? And how many of you think the reverse is true? And I have the mic over here, so Gurpreet. Yes, Kiran.
For me, the character is everything. The story begins with the character and the plot comes because of the character and whatever the character is going to do. There's no plot without a character.
Interesting. Kanchana? Yeah.
I feel that the character and plot, they're just two sides of the same coin. One can't exist without the other. And one enhances the other more. So it's not a question of either or for me. They both are equally important.
Interesting. Any other point of view? Okay. Harvey, to you. How important have you observed that various art forms play a role in the life of, and I'm being very gender specific, women around the globe? And if you have examples of how literature may have helped them, it will be wonderful to hear something about that.
It's amazing you asked me this question because my first book was called Creative Living. And I've never written a novel, a fiction book. I don't read too much fiction. Sinjani's was probably the first one that I went through, except Gone with the Wind and all of that when you read when you're growing up. But I think when I sort of figured out what I wanted to read, it was always non-fiction because I'm hungry and a little greedy for knowledge. So like, okay, try and absorb as much. And as you get older, you get wiser and you learn to tap into the inner wisdom, but all of that. But having said that, I was always into how does the female brain work, what was the history of this. So we're trying to get real learning instead of launching into imaginary worlds. Well, that's the perspective I had. So thank you for introducing me to fiction today in right now. So Creative Living was a book again. It was semi-autobiographical. And I'm connecting the dots to the question that you're asking. So I did my PhD at the Sorbonne, at the University of Paris. Until then, before then, I'd done my master's at the Royal Academy and all of that. So I was very bookish. I was very academic. I would spend hours and hours in the library. I was a bookworm. I would love books. And that was my world, a bit like your heroine actually. That was my parallel world. And when I actually stepped into the real world after my PhD, I felt an instant disconnect. Like there was no connection between me and the world that I step out into. Put me back into the library and I'm at home. Put me back into the world of books. So I felt like, I don't know, it's like a fish being put into a completely alien pond which is not made up of water that she knows, right? And I don't know how to breathe here, I don't know how to interact, and this is life, right? And I said, okay, step back. And being the very academic person and a sort of a perfectionist in a way, you want to get it right. Like whatever response you give to life, whatever you do in life, it has to come from a thought through space. I don't do it so much anymore. I'm more of a player now. I jump into things like you advise Sinjani, very rightly and wisely so. But at that time, I was like, first get it right and then move. Anyway, so I took a seat back, and in the morning, early morning, you quoted Elizabeth Gilbert. Like you said, you didn't know whether the pen chose you, you chose the pen. It was very much like that, And I would wake up very early morning. I'm a very morning person, even like 3:30 a.m. in the morning, and just...
That's midnight, not morning.
Yeah. We were told as children that is the Brahma Muhurat. So I would, when I was doing my exams in school as well, 4 o'clock was the time mom would wake you up. So for me that was also nostalgia and sort of doing the right thing in your head because mom did that with you, right? So it just felt very good. So I would wake up and just start writing on my computer or paper or whatever. And I would just sort of close my eyes. It was my first book. I'd never written a book. And I would just pray to something out there saying flow, write or whatever. And that was my journey or my passage or my channel or medium to figure out myself. And what the book Creative Living was all about was that each one of us can choose our own path of living. That's why creative. It's not sort of one path of living which is applicable to all, one size fits all. But each one of us has a gift of God inside of us. And we can manifest it, and that can be our own lifestyle, our own creative path, and how we can use creative activities every day in our life to engender our own creativity. So to keep ourselves in the state of creative flow. And creative activities not in the sense of an artist, but there's creativity in the way you place the flowers, in the way you lay the table, in the way you set the room, in the way you choose your jogging path. There's creative choice presenting itself to you in every moment. Something I learned from my better half, every time you have food on a flight, you should see him setting the tray after he's had his food. It's such a visual delight to see where he sets, everything that is garbage. But he sets it up so beautifully. So I used the visual arts, music, and theatre, that's my background as well, as how we can use, so it's in the book called Creative Living. So yes, to answer that question of yours, artistic activities or creative activities, because sometimes the word art alienates people. They're like, I'm not an artist. But creativity is something that people identify with. It's the child in us. We've all been creative at some point in our lives, and we just have to get back to it and use it to be in a state, be in a creative state, a positive state, a receptive state, a learning state, an exchanging state, a giving state, a living, breathing, organic state. And that's where our own, whatever gift we have to manifest, begins to emerge and begins to come out and begins to touch life and ourselves, the creator and the creation. And like what you said, it's two sides of the same coin. So
Interesting. That's a really cool way of putting it up. Though I would love to pick your brains on the point that how you understand a woman's brain and put forward. I think that will be a best-selling book to understand a woman's brain. I must say that. So your next project should be that. But nevertheless, what I wanted to pick from there and put forward to you is that this whole concept of creative liberties. And now more so because we are in a position where we've all seen certain protests happening across the country around creative liberties. So, what is your take on creative liberties and what is your take on your versus my creativity?
As you know, Dr. Arora just said about creativity. See, everyone's creative. We can be creative in our daily lives. The way we work in our office, the way we spend our time in our home, the way we drive a car on the road. We have to be, creativity is something which is ingrained in all of us. It's how we use it and where you use it. Like we say, the kind of time you want to spend, the quality time you want to spend. So creativity is there, and how you are using your quality time at your home and your office. So, of course, creativity is there, but when it comes to creative liberties, see, everyone is entitled to have his or her ideas, thoughts, but I would say that in a social setup, I think everyone has a place, everyone has a position where they are entitled to express those ideas and those thoughts. You might not like what I think, the way I behave, the way I talk, the way my thought process functions, but that should not lead to kind of hatred between you and me. Though we have different thought processes, though we have different ways of thinking, though we belongs to or believes in different philosophies, but that should not mean that I will hate Dipankar or Dipankar will hate me. I respect your ways of thinking, you will respect my ways of thinking. It's quite possible someone, maybe a lot of people will be reading Elixir now, and some people might object to some of the descriptions that are given in the film. They'll say, it's only talk about the problem that the women is facing, and you have not given ample opportunities to the male protagonist in your story to talk about or to express himself, and how he was feeling and how he was trapped and what's his story, his side of story. So there, of course, it's a subjective issue. All creative expressions are subjective, but they are also at the same time based on individuals' interest, individuals' thinking. So I think protests happens because the reasons behind those protests may be various. There can be political reasons, there can be, of course, some social reasons, there can be some individual reasons also. If I don't like this book, even I have a group of like-minded people who will stage a protest outside the new media center. They can see, it depends on what is the objective behind protesting or behind accepting anything. So as far as creative liberties are concerned, I would say that we all have equal right to express our creative liberties. But none of us have any kind of right to denounce someone else's creative abilities or sensibilities. And I think we should give equal respect to everyone's creative sensibilities and thought process.
Thank you, well said. Before I open the floor for questions from the audience, I have a slightly lighter side to all this. How many of you here present believe that there is creativity in the way we throw our towels after we've taken a bath, which our wives a lot of times say that please put it back in the right place. So I believe I throw it in a very creative way which makes a beautiful shape wherever it falls. So isn't that true? That's creative, right? So see, that's where the problem is. That's your versus my creativity. So we should believe in everybody's creativity and let it be there, you know? So that's adding some value out there, isn't it?
You sleep on the wet patch on the bed, right? Well, let it be
Did I say bed? I did not. It could be the floor as well, or the sofa, you know? It could be anywhere. Anyways, so, sorry. Opening the floor for questions. Any questions of the panelists or the author? You can put them to us. You need not exchange notes. No questions, which means either the audience is sleeping or waiting for the chai. Oh, there is one, is it? Yeah.
Kamalini. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Kamalini.
So after you've written Elixir, it was a stroke of genius, it came to you as it came. How are you going to live up to it? As in, next what? Does that knock at your door, that thought?
The next book you mean, or how do I leave Elixir?
Yes.
Next book, I believe, right?
Yeah. What
Next
would
book.
be your next creative project?
We discussed that, didn't we?
Oh, you
Yeah, next book.
Haven't quite. I mean, I'm still kind of
Some
lost in
ideas.
it. Yes. I have been warned sufficiently against it by Anita. Many of you would know that I happened to chance encounter Anita Agnihotri, who's a very veteran writer. She has been writing for over 40 years. She's a Bengali writer, and she's one of the writers that grew up reading. So she has influenced me along with other writers in my formative years. And she kind of liked Elixir quite a lot. So on the day that we met, she launched my book, etc. At 11 in the night, I get a ring on my phone and it's like, Shinjini, have you slept already? I'm like, no. And she's like, listen, I'm reading Elixir. Tell me, what are you going to write next? It should live up to Elixir. So I do not know what, but yes, I think that she has sufficiently warned me against the next book. It has to be good, perhaps.
Great. Any more questions? Yeah. Oh, we have two. Wow, suddenly it was like an inertia.
Congratulations, Shinjini. It's a big moment for all of us right now, and actually I feel pretty honored and your whole creative process, and also specifically through this book. When did you think, like, this is it, I should end it here? Like, this can be true for a film script or anything. Like, I'm not sure whether you had a certain structure of story flow or a trajectory of how it's going to be in your mind, or was it pretty organic? Like, you were writing, and as far as you know, the book is pretty linear as well. So there was always a chance for you to just take it ahead as much as you want. And was it exhaustion, or was it, chalo, I'm happy with what it is, and how do you think it? What happened?
I think I chose to end the book at a point where, of course, if you read the book, of course the ending is a ending which has a certain incident and an event to it. But more than that, I think if I look at Elixir as a woman's journey and the protagonist, Manisha's journey, she was getting opened up, enlightened, and freer. She was like just starting to come in contact with herself. She was going inside herself one step by one step. And at one point, of course, I felt that she has reached. I mean, there is this one point where she looks around the people who just maybe, a few steps back, she would have she would have pointed her finger of blame at them and said that, it is due to these certain issues, these certain people that my life has not been what I wanted it to become, etc., etc. But she finally reached one place where she could forgive all, and she was not, it's not even forgiving, it's like, that empathy that she reached. I think that should be my kind of conclusive answer. When she reached to that point where I wanted to take her, I ended the book. And Lubthak, again, he is a brilliant filmmaker, and more than that, he's such a friend. Yesterday night, he actually applied for leave for today so that he could come over yesterday night and stay with us and just help us out with everything, tea and whatever. So that is the kind of friends we have, and he's such a brilliant guy. He makes awesome, his creative process is a matter of a discourse in its own.
So you trying to point it, he makes awesome food as well? Awesome, and then full stop.
I haven't tried that and I won't risk it.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I'll park the questions for the next section.
Yes.
Many people have questions.
We have questions come. So she's not going off the stage. We have Paramita coming in, joining us now. Okay.
Deepak,
Yeah.
if you allow me, can I ask one question
Yeah,
to each of
absolutely,
them?
please.
Because I'm very interested to, ask a few things. To you, Harbin, first. I mean, Harbin, I'm kind of surprised the way she spoke about herself just in the previous round, because she is one person who has just gone out in the world and said that, you know what, woman used to be woman's friend in history. But as we very often and very passingly remark that, women are women's worst enemies. And we just say it, and we see ample evidences all around us, as much we would like to disprove that. And she is this one person who keeps saying that, sisterhood, how we can all stand up for each other. And I mean, frankly, a lot of my, initial columns on social issues and all would be angry feminist columns. And when I came in touch with him and touch with her, and I also read her Creative Living book, and also as I interacted with her, attended several of the women economic forums where I got exposed to such brilliant, strong, and brave women from across the world, I felt that she somehow can tap, and she provokes people to reach out inside. So the only way out is in. I think that is something that I keep hearing at the conferences. So Harbin, how has really this journey, where did you, from that library bookworm and to this, frankly, what did it take you to become what you have become today?
I think we all have the seed inside of us, right? Like you use the word destiny a lot, and I love the journey that you're on. So I think we're all seeds, God's seeds on this planet Earth, and we've been planted here, and it is our sacred right, sacred destiny, sacred fulfillment to sprout into whatever we were meant to be. And very often we stay hidden under the earth like a seed. There's a beautiful Ghalib shade on it as well, couplet, Urdu coupleted. Sab kahan kuch lala gul mein numaya ho gayi, खाक में क्या सूरतें होंगी कि पिन्हा हो गई. It just means that सब कहाँ, सारी थोड़ी, सब कहाँ, कुछ लाला हो गुल में, थोड़ी सी seeds इस गुलिस्तान में, इस garden में नुमाया मैनिफेस्ट हो गई. खाक में क्या सूरतें, खाक के अंदर, मिट्टी के अंदर क्या क्या सीड्स होंगी जो पिन्हा हो गई, जो गुम हो गई, जो कभी मैनिफेस्ट नहीं हुई. And I think it's a beautiful allegory for what each of us as man, as woman, as whoever we are, as human being are going through, right? And I was also hidden. So in my university days, always in black track pants, in my chashma, hidden behind myself. And as I was growing up, my favorite line in my angry teenage days, silently angry teenage days, was that I prefer no company to bad, which means I was a loner. I was always into my books, I was into my studies, so of course I was excelling in that. Whatever you pay attention to, that grows. So yes, I was doing well in my school, I was head girl, all of that, but again very tunnel visioned into my own thing, because I probably didn't have very good social skills, or I don't know, maybe that part of me was hidden, had not manifested. एक सीड के अंदर जैसे वो तिल में तेल है, जीव चकमक में आग, तेरा साई तुझ में है, तू जाग सके तो जाग. So there's so much potential in that seed, but it has to be nurtured. It had to begin to come out, and that journey of seed to sprouting into that full plant of whatever you are, whether you're a karela or your coconut or your mango, whatever that is inside of you has to come out. And so I was in this whole very insular sort of a sphere, and I was enjoying it, frankly. It was a state of happiness there as well. And I remember Vinay is not here, but he was the one who said to me, I would never go out. He would say, why don't you go out with these people? I would never go out. I would always had to go out with a purpose. I was always like an overachiever, purpose all the time. And I said, no, I don't like to be with that. That's a lot of gossip. I don't like that. So it was always like, I don't like. It was a negative state of being. So he said, well, instead of avoiding something because you don't like, why don't you create something that you like and be part of that? And I think that just created a big shift, like there's a mantra moment that comes to you, and I was ready to receive it. And that just took hold in my heart, and he really supported me in what I really wanted to do. And step by step, the black track pants began to go away, and nice colorful things began to manifest, and the creation was there.
Thank you. And I have seen that thing happen in close quarters, and that's such a huge, expansive thing. I cannot say enough. Each small 15-minute session with each of the speakers will leave you thinking that, I'm so glad I'm here right at this point. So, Arvind, what you are making and what you are on your way with is a blessing, really. I mean, seriously, I mean it with all my heart. I think very few people, because I try to gather my writing from inside me, and I try to avoid influences, but if there are only a few hand-counted influences, one is definitely Arvind Arora, so thank you. And Narendra, I had a very different question to you. And kind of, if that question was more optimistic, I think this will be perhaps a little more serious. Of course, the Woodpecker Film Festival is about social issue-related festivals. And when we talk about social issues, we very easily talk about the newspaper headlines, the gender crimes, the, children, whatever the stark realities, and we make, if it is a film or anything like that, so we make it a concern, we talk about it, and we kind of unanimously decide and agree, yes, this is an issue. But, for example, Elixir, if I take it, for example, there's also a small character where she, this maid woman, this lady thinks that what's wrong, because frankly, whatever we all aspire for, or whatever we have been taught to aspire for, that you have got your car, you have got your house, you have got your bank balance, etc., the international vacations, but still there is a social malady. I wouldn't want to be very pessimistic and say that it's the end of the world, but our overall happiness index in the society in general, I also don't want to compare it with how it was before, after, whatever, but it leaves us asking for more, it leaves us wanting for more, and this is a kind of a social issue that cannot be called a crisis or a social issue, but it needs to be talked about, it needs to be addressed, it needs to be focused upon and worked upon. So how do you see this thing? From your point of work, where do you see this going?
After reading Elixir as a book, there are two, three very strong issues that we can outline actually. One is of course the main protagonist Manisha's life, what she is going through, and there's a character of a psychologist also in the story. So of course that's one of the issues which is troubling, I think, a lot of women. In fact, this book to some extent also provide a kind of a mirror to all of us. We all can find our own Manishas and Amit in this book in one way or other way. So one aspect would be definitely to provide a kind of platform to express what Manisha is going through. Maybe there can be another film on Elixir also, with a different storyline focusing on maybe Manisha's issues. Here, where you can treat it in a different way. And if you want to give it a social issue kind of focus, so that way it can be treated differently as far as the whole issue is concerned. Secondly, the issue how Manisha's husband is behaving. He has everything. He has money, he has a degree from international university, he's MBA, and he's a lot of money, he has a very secure job, he's a CEO, a lot of things. But how he has been unable to make a connect with his own wife. So that kind of disconnect, which I would say it's not a family issue, it's not an individual issue, it's a social disconnect. So because they socialize a lot of parties happen, like on the 10th anniversary they gave a party where they invited everyone. So that means they socialize a lot, but there's a disconnect between husband and wife. So there can be film on those disconnects also. Then of course, there is a paragraph in your book when she is meeting the psychologist, and before that, she is talking to herself. I have everything in life. I have a degree, I have so many awards, I have a career, I have everything. But is it worth it? We need something else in life. So I think that thirst of exploring something more, it remains with everyone. And Dr. Arora just said, what a wonderful journey she had. So that thirst of achieving more, going something beyond the traditional, goalpost of achievements. The way we all have grown up, we have our own, I would say, our achievements are quietly identified that at this age you will achieve this, at this age you will achieve this, and for both men and women. And those stereotypical lives most of us are living. But that at the same time gives a lot of space now in this age where we can explore, we can find out more avenues to explore ourselves, to find out new ways, new creative ways of living life. So those are the different stories that can emerge from Elixir, and each one of them I think is capable of developing into a story, maybe into a film or another book maybe. So as an artist, as a creative person, I think that should be the starting point for new creative experimentations for Elixir.
Thank you so much. And with that, we come to the end of this discussion. And Harvey, Narendra, thank you so much for being a part of this. It was wonderful having you over, and thank you once again.